Good evening. Man, 2 weeks has passed by so fast. I'm Mark Smith, and thank you again for taking the time to join me tonight for the Process Roundtable. One of the things that I really thought about when we created this message or the series of messages is every single interaction that we have with individuals, we have an opportunity to make them bitter or make them better. So that becomes a choice of ours of what we do and what we say to them, and more importantly, how we interact with them. So it's so important, again, for us to share messages, share acronyms that I created that help build and reach across and help people move to another level. It's not going to stop. We are really strong with the message that I have tonight with two phenomenal gentlemen. So I want you to do me a favor. I want to make sure that you dial in, interact with us. We're going to talk about something that's so powerful that has two meanings. One that of course, you know about, but more importantly, another one that we're going to dig into tonight. So we want your feedback. We want your interaction. You can always email me, Mark, at theprocessmarksmith.com, as well as visit my website. But more importantly, I want to make sure that you grasp something today that you can use tomorrow and you can share with somebody who truly needs it. So without any further ado, let's get this party started. Welcome back. I'm Mark Smith. I'm so excited to have you here with me today. It's so powerful to share a message that's really going to help us grow forward. I've got two phenomenal gentlemen who are joining me tonight. The first gentleman, he's actually in Philadelphia, PA, the city for brotherly love. I met this gentleman a while back. He's actually been on my show on Star 107 FM as well. And he brings a lot of energy, a lot of wisdom, and a lot of impact in what we're going to talk about, not only today, but future things that he has going on in his plate. Mr. Gary Hines. Gary, welcome to the show this evening.
Hey, how you doing, Mark? Thank you for having me.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. Next gentleman, man, 11 years, 12 years of history. We got a lot of history together. He's local. He's right here. However, by way of NYC, New York City in the house. So Mr. Andrew Simpson. Drew, you out there?
Mark, I'm here. It's always a pleasure to be with you, my man.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining me tonight. We're not going to waste time. I'm going to jump right into it because, again, I want individuals to have an opportunity to reach back out to us and answer those questions. So all of those who watch and listening, don't dial in your questions. We want that feedback. Plus, you get a chance to win some process merchandise. So what do you have to lose? All right. So I want to start this off in a traditional format like I always do. And that's when I talk about what this is, and that's the process. So I know what the process is in my life, in relationship to my life. I'm gonna start with you, Gary. Define the process and what it means in relationship to Gary Hines and his life.
Sure. Thank you. Well, for me, the process is one of continuous improvement, and I consider that perpetual motion, where you have to work at the process, and that means looking at, what you're doing every single day and what, looking at life as a process. So I look at it that way. And I said, this could be a small decision like buying a telephone, buying a cell phone. And this could be something larger like getting a new job or moving to a different city. So the process for me is one where you look at all sides of the situation from front to back, top to bottom, looking at the big picture and the end result. So I call this the holistic approach. And, Stephen Covey has said you should always start with the end in mind. Stephen Covey wrote the book, the 7 Habits of Successful People. And you should always start with the end in mind, and what were you trying to achieve? And then you work backwards. So thinking about your goal, your objective, and that process to get there, you should look back and see what are the steps I need to take to get there. And I also look at the process as a SWOT analysis. For those who don't know what SWOT is, Mark, I'm sure you do: strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats in the process, and how to deal with each one of those as you approach anything, from buying a phone, buying a house, starting a relationship. Always use a SWOT analysis. To me, that's my process.
Thank you. Thank you. Drew, what about you? What does the process mean, and how does it, what type of relationship does it have in your life?
Great question, Mark. So the process for me, I look at it as I call it the scenic route in anyone's life, especially mine's. It is that thing that you must go through. Is that thing that you can never abort. It's the scenic route. I look at it as multiple inevitable milestones that you can never go around. Without the process, you can never really get to that end state. The process is that language that connects purpose with destiny. So if you choose to abort the process, essentially you're aborting destiny. You're aborting purpose. So it's that the process for me is something that I must always embrace. It's not something I must hide and cave in on, but it's something I must just truly embrace. The process is also one of those things where you might not necessarily know or prepare for. So you can say, okay, I want a degree in a thing, and you can prepare for that process. But the process, you can also have a blind spot, and you don't know how to prepare for that blind spot, and you have to go through that process. So that's why I say the process is one of those things that you must go through, you must achieve, and you also must never abort.
Thank you. Thank you for sharing. For me, it is a continuous pattern of growth. Continuous, meaning ongoing, every single day. The day that you wake up, the day that you look in the mirror, the day that you come home, the day that you kiss your wife or significant other and realize that what you accomplished for that day. And you do that self-reflection and say, am I one step closer? Am I one step closer to reaching the levels that I wanted to go? And it's overcoming obstacles, not boulders, obstacles, the short-term, temporary things that happen in life that are, as both of you talked about, are inevitable. These are truly learning opportunities to make you who you are, get better with who you are, and celebrate your wins that you occur. So again, thank you, gentlemen, for helping me get this started. We're going to talk about something that, again, I talked about that has multiple meanings, and that's the word trust. For the most part, individuals, when they hear that word, they think, well, that's believing in an individual or believing in something or having the willingness to accept something all the way around. And that's true. However, I take it to another level, which has a different meaning for the purpose of our roundtable. And when I first wrote about this, I said that trust stands for time, reveals, understanding of situations, transformation. Trust. So what I want to do is I want us to take a moment and unpack this. And I asked the gentleman to discuss 3 of these words in this acronym and how they're instrumental in your personal growth. So I know I started with you first, Gary. I'm going to start with Drew first this time. Drew, one of the 3 words.
So one of the 3 words that I think is pivotal in the word trust is understanding. Is that is understanding, because understanding illuminates perspective. And when you have insight or understanding on that question mark that your inner core begs for an answer, it kind of makes that process a little bit easier. So the word understanding it illuminates your perspective. You know that emoji, that's that wow emoji. When something illuminates right before your eyes, it's like, God, that's why I had to go through what I had to go through to get to where eventually you end up being. So it's understanding for me. So when you have understanding of, say, the process, or you have understanding of a situation, it gives that much more meaning to what you had to endure.
Gary, what about you?
Yeah, I actually thought I would use the word understanding as well, because I still think that understanding is so critical in trust. If you really don't understand what you're trying to do or where you're trying to go, you're pretty much lost. So that would be one key word. But I also wanted to focus on situations, and I say that because I think every situation that we happen to find ourselves in, you have to analyze it. You have to go through. Again, we come back to the word process. You have to go through it and understand situations are going to be different, and each situation may be different, but still you can use the analysis to go through it and say, how do I approach this particular, happening in my life right now? How do I get through this? How do I get by this? So all approaches won't be the same for every situation. And again, you have to be able to trust, your understanding of the situation and then deal with it. So that word to me is very, very critical in this acronym, trust. The situation, we all go through them, various ones, and I think that it's key to being able to understand those situations to deal with them.
Thank you. Thank you. For me, I'm going to start off with the very first word, time. We're given, and I wrote about it. I did a expose on it. We're given 86,400 seconds every single day. There's no carryover. There's no, I will deal with it. I can have that time back tomorrow. I can have that time back next week. It's the time. And it's funny, I used to kid with my wife a long time ago. I would tell her all the time, she would say something in reference to time. And I said, well, who defines time? What does time truly mean? Just because it says 7 o'clock, is it really 7 o'clock? Do you really know that to be factual? Or is that what we're conditioned to think? So when I think about the time aspect, I think about it's about maximizing every moment of our life. We get one life. We get one shot. I use the adage, one shot, one kill. We get one time. We get one time to make this the best life that we can live. We have one time to leave a legacy. We have one time to reach the goals that we truly are aspiring to get. I know there's going to be things that come in. That's the process. But we have time, the time to make things happen. And it's what do we do with our time that's so key. So time would be the answer to the first one for me of the three. So we'll come back to you, Gary, and then we'll flip to Drew. That's one. You mentioned situational. What would be your second one?
Probably back to understanding, like Drew had pretty much explained. I think that's a key word for me too, because as I mentioned, understanding of any process, of anything you're trying to get to is so critical to be successful in that. If you don't have that understanding, you're certainly lost. So I would say that's probably pretty high up there as well in the whole acronym for trust. Certainly understanding. So I would keep that at the top of my list for sure.
Okay. Drew, how about you?
I think that's key with what both you and Gary had mentioned already. Excuse me. But I would say my second one would be time as well. Time is the most expensive thing that each of us are actually given, and how you spend it will ultimately reveal, which is in your second word. Not trying to dip and try to steal two words in there, but time actually is that very expensive thing, and it tells a lot of times a lot of people say, if you show me your bank account, I can tell you what kind of person you are. But if you show me the time that you spend, that tells me, that reveals what kind of person you truly are. Because like you said, we are all given the same or allocated the same amount of time, and how you spend it really reveals character, reveals discipline, reveals grit, reveals determination. It reveals a lot of who you are on the inside.
Very good. I was told one time, or asked the question, is the way you think leading you, or are you leading the way you think? And that became apparent as I continued to grow forward and realize that the transformation in my life was key. We all say that the old us is gone and the new and improved. I'll say new and improved is something that is continuing to be worked on. So it's so important to not dwell on where you were in life, but take it a step further and utilize those things to transform your life to be who you truly are called to be. I never thought not going as I got wiser, not older. I never thought I would be sitting in this position right now, having an opportunity to share these messages with individuals and respond to emails, respond to messages from individuals from words that are just were placed inside myself. And they weren't placed inside me overnight. This was a consistent transformation in my life from things that happened to me in my past that I said no more. I can't stand for it anymore. I have to make the decision to take my life to a different level. So the transformational aspect of who Mark is, who Gary is, who Andrew is, who all of us are collectively is so important. It's so paramount. And we have to trust that what we're going through and where we're going in that transformation is going to be key. And that's the right place for us to be. So that would be the second one for me. So we're going to swing it back around, pivot back around. It's on you. It's on you, Drew. What would be that third one?
So my first one was time. My second one was understanding. And this one is revealed, because this is that trifold, it's that triangle where like each part plays a critical role in itself, where it's ultimately is going to reveal that thing at the end. So reveal is what time will deliver. Understanding is what perspective will deliver. And so reveal will be that thing to kind of, that actually lifts it off the ground. It gives you, it answers, it changes those question marks that I was talking about earlier and replaces them with exclamation mark. It reveals what you had to go through. It reveals all of that process. So reveal is my third word in that.
Okay. How about you, Gary? What would be your third word?
Well, I'm going to have to say transformation. And like you, Mark, I feel that transformation and understanding what that means is so critical to, having a process and getting through this process. So for me, transformation is just understanding who I am now. And, it might sound cliche to say that, but, you do change you do change with age. And actually in this last year, I'll say the last, 12 to 15 months, I think we all have gone through some sort of transformation. We're doing things. I talked to some people tonight who are doing things that they never thought they'd be doing. It's interesting. I'm actually doing something that I always wanted to do, but the pandemic gave me a chance to transform myself into somebody, that I am now. So I really, really appreciate it. And I can understand transformation. I think we should embrace it and not be afraid of it. So that's got to be my other key word in the acronym trust.
Thank you.
Mark, if I could just jump in right quick.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I would, the reason why I also picked reveal is because what Gary just mentioned was, he said what he's doing now. I think time revealed who he has already been, not who he's became. He's already been, he's just now tapping into it. So time already exposed this thing. Understanding illuminated this perspective, that gift that he already, in us, we already had this thing. So that's why I said reveals the third one. So it's just, this is also key, what Gary mentioned and what you had already mentioned. And I just think reveal highlights everything that we all just now were just talking about. So I just wanted to chime in and say, I agree with Gary on that.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. And I'm going to kind of take what you said and kind of paraphrase it a little bit, because it did reveal to Gary, revealed to me, revealed to each one of us what was already inside of us. But until we understand. So that would be my third one. Till we understand who we are and what our makeup is. And more importantly, when we accept that knowledge from that understanding that we talked about. I always reference something that my uncle told me a long time ago, before he passed. And he said, Mark, you always remember knowledge speaks and wisdom listens. So once I understood that aspect of things inside my life, it slowed down. I liken it to sports, being a ex-athlete, and all of us have had some sort of gotten the zone at some point in some time, then where the game just slows down. It just slows down for us at that point. No matter what we do, life slows down for you once you understand the path that you're truly called to do. And you understand why, more importantly, you understand why you had to go through what you had to go through to get to where you are. Mm-hmm. And you appreciate those steps and those things that happen. So thank you, gentlemen. Thank you so much for digging into that. I want to ask a question. Because we are making some great time with some great information. I read an article, or I read a book. I read a book, get that. And inside there was something what George Washington Carver said. He said 99% of all failures come from people who make habits of making excuses. What was the last time that you truly felt a habit that you had cost you, and what did you do to correct that? I'm gonna start with you first, Gary. What habit that you felt cost you that you changed, and why did you change it?
Okay. For me, I think the habit was, and it's really more of an action than a habit, but it was something that I was doing that was really negative towards me as a person. So, and that something was that I always was seeking validation from other people about what I had, on my accomplishments. So when I would do something, I would expect everybody else to applaud me and give me accolades about it. And when I wasn't getting that, I started beating myself up and like, why aren't they happy for me? Why is it just, me celebrating me? So, it was a habit I would get every time I would reach some pinnacle, some goal somewhere. And I wasn't feeling like I was getting the kind of respect and the kind of applause, so to speak, that I was getting. So I had to break that. I really had to break that. And I admit, I'm being very truthful. I'm still working on that now. Mm-hmm. Validation from other people is not as critical to me, or it's not really critical to me at all, as long as I can validate myself. If I feel that I've been able to make it and I'm successful in something, I don't need to have 18 other people telling me that constantly. But I used to think like that. So that's a habit that I'm saying I'm still working on.
Good. Thank you. Thank you for the transparency. Same question for you, Drew.
Yep. So for me, it was stagnation. Stagnation is one of those things for me where I always thought I had the time. I would be putting off things that, that quote, they say, why put tomorrow what you can do today, or something like that. And so for me, I was that last minute joker. I can wait to the last minute. Like if something even for like this, I probably would have prepared for the last minute, or even if I had to turn in an essay for school or something, I would be doing it. Some people work well under pressure. I didn't ever feel pressure. I just felt like I had more time than everybody already had. So for me, it was stagnation. I had to break that thing because at the end, it actually cost me. It's stressful. Arguments happens in the house. It actually cost me financially by putting off some things for not properly planning ahead. So stagnation was one of the things I had to break its back.
We got a question. It's for Gary. What made you seek validation? Was that something from childhood?
Yeah, I think so, because being the youngest of four siblings, I thought that I always had to strive to reach whatever my brothers and sisters had done. So speaking of athletics, my brother was a top-notch baseball player. I really couldn't play baseball as well as he did. So I always thought I needed to be sort of validated by my parents when I went out to do things. So, and part of the question that Toya is asking me is, how did I break that? So as I grew and as I learned that I wasn't going to get that, I wasn't going to always hear those kind of things that I wanted to hear. I just learned to live with it. I said, listen, you are doing okay. You are okay. You don't need to have all these other folks telling you that. So learn to live with it. And there was no one particular incident that happened, but it just, as time went on, back to time reveals, transformation, it just started happening to me almost organically.
Mm-hmm. For me, I'm going to say there's a quote that I live by. It was something simple that I wrote down, and I wrote it, and I looked at it, and I looked at it because I had a problem with self limitations. And I wrote my own self limitations are the invisible fences that halt progression. Invisible fences that halt my progression. So I would make up things. They say you're, and I was victim of it. Some people are more afraid of success than they are for failure. More afraid of success. What if I do make it? What if this is called for me to do? What if I'm not ready to seek this? What is it about me that makes me so special to allow me to get to a level to where that I'm truly called to do, that I understand that I'm called to do? So accepting that there are no self limitations, breaking the habit and the cycle, saying that you're not worthy, you're not good enough is not acceptable. And it took a long time. I mean, I battled with it. It became a true thorn in my side because, again, similar to what you talked about, Drew, stagnation became stagnant because I was afraid of moving forward in success. Like you as well, Gary, I thought about, well, if I was successful, how will I perceive that? Or how come people aren't telling me I'm successful? Was that validation really important for me? So again, that the own self-limitation really, it crushed, at one point crushed my my progression. And I go back and think about it was just that own invisible fence. Is there anything else that you guys feel that you're working on now that might benefit some of our listeners right now? I'll open it up. Whoever wants to go first.
Absolutely. I think it's the fear of opening your mouth. Because a lot of times we have in our own mouths the thing that somebody else needs. And we, like you was talking about, Mark, we have these invisible fences around us. And not knowing that somebody else's breakthrough is dependent upon your mouth. So I had to break that thing of like, okay, open up your mouth and say what you not say, just say what you feel just out of your own egotisticness, but say what you feel and see if that kind of thing agrees with the person that you're talking to. Because you never know what people are going through. They too have a process, and you don't want to abort your thing because you may be pivotal in getting them through their process. You know what I mean? So each one, we all teach one type of thing. I had to get the fear of being this introvert guy, being so quiet, so shy, introvertish, and be like, you know what, bro, that tie looks nice, or sis, you really doing your thing. I love your speech, and being able to compliment without the fear like, oh, I don't know how I'm gonna be perceived. How's that gonna come across? So I just want to say that opening up your mouth because your breakthrough may be tied to somebody else's destiny.
Mm-hmm. Love it.
And for me, I think if I could give advice to anybody out there that's kind of maybe in that situation or kind of feeling like that the fear of failure, again, another cliche we hear a lot, it really does cause stagnation. And I believe that standing back and holding back on things, your dream, pursuing your dream, can really cause roadblocks and a hindrance to being successful and happy in life. So this fear of failure and not taking chances, I think is key, is also in your development and in your process. If I could speak to young folks, I would tell them, I said, have a dream, always have a dream. So for me, I think it's something you should not let that hold you back. The fear of not being successful.
Mm. I closed season 3 of the series of the process. Where do we go from here? And one of the things that I closed it with was the definition of purpose, and how often we confuse dreams and purpose. How people take those and they intertwine them and they mix them together. And what I truly believe is that dreams are usually influenced by the world. The world usually has a major impact on your dreams, but your purpose is owning everything about who you are. Everything about who you are, you're good, you're bad, and knowing that you are like no other. So if I could speak to anybody out there, young, middle-aged, old, I'm sorry, no old, we don't do old, we do wiser. We do wiser, such as myself.
Seasoned.
I like that better. Put a little salt and pepper on it, right? You understand that you are valued. You are truly valued, and your value, and other people are looking at you and looking up to you to give them that wisdom or that knowledge that you're able to make sure that you are able to carry on and carry it through. So great dialogue, fellas. I have a question for you. I'm going to shift it to something else for a second. I'm just in the fourth episode of season 4, in the process, and the topic of it, or the central message behind all of this is, why not me? And I think we kind of talked a little bit about some of the things in trust, how that built on why not me, because we have a foundation now. So what is your personal suggestion to share with everyone when asked that question? Why not me? We talked about being fear of success, right? We talked about being fear of failure. So why today would you stand boldly, Drew, and say, why not me?
Why not you? Why not me? Look, we all have this makeup, and there's only one kind of Andrew Simpsons out there. There's only one kind of Mark Smith, and there's one kind of Gary out there. Nobody can do the thing that you can do. Nobody can speak, walk, talk like you can. There's been a grace allotted to you and only you, that only you can do. I can never imitate. I can try to imitate, but I can never actually be the thing that you are. So we all play a part in this thing called life, and that each one embraces who they are, and not ask the question, why not me? You were chosen for this. You were selected for this. You were called to this. And without you, we can accomplish this thing. So why not me? You're called to the table. Pull up a seat and then park and then take. You know what I mean? So why not me is, I think it's sort of selfish, because it's almost like abandoning the game, where so many people wish they was selected. So my thing is, why not me? I would say, why not you? You were called, chosen, and wanted for this role on earth. We all play a role together, and we cannot do this thing. There's nothing that exists without somebody.
Mm-hmm.
And somebody else might say, well, I don't need anybody. Yes, you do. You shower alone. No, you don't. Somebody had to build that shower. Somebody had to build that shower. Somebody had to build that washcloth. Somebody had to make the soaps. Everybody plays a role in this thing called life. I don't care what it is. There's not one thing on this God earth that we have not, human beings don't play a part in each other's lives. We are one body fitly joined together. So why not you?
Mm-hmm. Good. Thank you. Gary.
Andrew, that was very powerful. I totally felt that, in me. I tell you, I really did. For me, why not me? Well, I think this is such a critical question right now, where we are as a country, as a people, as Black men and women. I think that personally for me, I feel I have the knowledge, the background, and the skills to be the best, most successful person that I can be. I mean, I know that. In today's world, we often have to be better equipped and than our counterparts, more knowledgeable, more educated, more background work when doing the same job. I think that why the why not me question becomes essential when we look at ourselves and see the best individuals that we can be. We work hard, sometimes harder than our competitors. We prove ourselves over and over again. So what I would say is staying positive and focused, learning to accept that sometimes it won't be fair, and life is just not going to be fair. So if you don't get that job, if you don't get that promotion, if you don't get that new car, for whatever reason, there's a backup plan. Why not me for something else? Okay, it may not be your time, but to keep a string, keep a sense of self-confidence. And I would like to again encourage young folks. I always want to mentor and talk to young folks about asking themselves, why not me? I can do that too. Give me a chance. I can do it. I must have just give me the opportunity. So advantages and acceptance in the world, when we know we can do it, I think that's why not me for everybody. We can all do it. So
when I've told the story on numerous occasions, I in 2018, I was unfortunately, fortunately, I'm going to say fortunately, I was at the institution I was working for. They abruptly closed their doors. And when they closed their doors, I didn't have a backup plan, because I mentally thought that I would be there forever. I used the terminology, and I've said it before, comfort is a casualty of growth. There was it. That's a prime example of it right there. And going through that transition of not working, I'll never forget working on my PhD, my projects that were half done by my wife, because I was home. I had the opportunity she came to me one day and she said, why don't you live your dream? Why don't you live your dream? And I thought long and hard about it. I said, well, what is my dream? What do I have a passion about right now? Because I'm feeling less than, I'm feeling helpless. I was having a pity party for myself by not being able to quote unquote contribute. But that was the best thing that could ever happen to my life, because it allowed me to focus and channel my energies on what we're doing tonight, on being able to have the opportunity to share messages, to have opportunity to dialogue with individuals and get stronger mentally and spiritually, because being enriched with individuals that I come across and have a chance to talk to. So in that journey of the process, I realized something that Les Brown said a long time ago. He said that the wealthiest place on this earth is the graveyard. That's where more dreams, more aspirations, more goals have gone untapped, unused, because people didn't take advantage of it. And as it continued to progress, looked at myself, I said, why not me? Why not me? Why don't I deserve that opportunity to stand up and share a message with individuals across the country, with individuals who I come across, with family, with friends, and let them know that, listen, you're not ashamed of what you've done. You're stronger because who you are now. And you're strong enough to make sure that you can stand and accept your role and play your part to help people be better every single day. So why not me? Why not me? So thank you, fellas. I have a follow-up topic I want to talk about. I want you to take your time with this one. I'm going to go with you first, Gary. If you could give everyone listening a single word to hold on to as they're going through that storm, what would that word be and why?
Mm-hmm. A very good question. And again, I wish somebody had given me some words earlier in life that I could use and carry along with me. But I think right now, as I think of a word that folks could use or should keep in mind as they go through the storm, it has to be faith. For me, it has to be faith. I know it's overused a lot of times, But sometimes you really have to have, personal faith to get you to the end result. If you don't have it, you're probably going to have a harder time with these roadblocks that are always put up in front of us and thrown our way. As a people, we have to understand we're going to definitely have that. Yes, we do. We got to have faith. And that if we don't channel our energy in the right direction, we could end up, pretty lost and confused, without it. So getting through the storm requires courage and commitment in general. And the faith that you have is so crucial and necessary to get you through it. I think for me, having trust in a higher power has pulled me through some extremely difficult times. I would let go. If I would have let go, I'd have been in a world of despair. And Lord knows where I might have ended up earlier in my life, like so many folks that I know did. Faith can also be used as a host, for a host of difficult situations that you may be in, dealing with systematic racism, working and living with toxic people, working with restraints on your mind and your body, because we're told that, we got to be better. So having that faith, having that internal faith, and, and if you're not a faith, based person, do you have a support system around you that's also encouraging you to do the best that you can do and be the best that you can be? A family member, a relative, your made up family. So, but to me, it all comes down to having faith in what you're doing, knowing you're going to get there. You get down, knocked down once, you get up and try it again. That's just key to me.
Okay. Thank you, Gary. Drew, what about you? One more.
Me being a faith man, I couldn't agree with Gary more. But what I would add to faith is grit. Having grit, having the strength to endure, having the will, having the faith, and having the fortitude to face what is it that you consider a storm. Every storm don't last forever. That storm is temporary. So you have to have the grit to endure that thing, the grit to charter those waves. They have high and lows, but you can't just abort what you see on the other side. You have to have the grit to stand. And so for me, it's grit. And married with the grit is what I usually tell some of my troops is do it with T squared, do it with truthfulness, do it with tact, and do it with tenacity. And both of them kind of go together. So you have to do whatever you embrace. Make sure you do it with tenacity, truthfulness, and do it in tact, decency, and in order. But whatever you do never give up on yourself. Have the grit to at least take up for yourself. Love what you do, love who you do it for, and love who you do it with.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I'm gonna single out a word that you just mentioned, and that's temporary. Nothing that we have to go through or we find ourselves a situation, not problem, situation. No situation that we ever encounter is finite. None. It's temporary. This too shall pass. It will not last forever. But in that temporary moment, ask yourself, what are you not asked, required to learn? What am I required to get out of this situation? This temporary situation? What is it that I am supposed to understand to carry me forward through my next journey to help build on it? And just as we talked about earlier today, who am I required to share that with? Who am I designed to give that information to so they don't have to go through it? We do a lot of talking at people, but we don't talk to people. And we need to let them know that whatever they're feeling or whatever they're going through at any given time although they may not see that silver lining, it is temporary. It is going to pass. And they always say, well, you don't know how I feel. You know what? Sometimes I'm sure you're right. I don't. I don't. I have not been in those shoes. However, I can tell you about shoes that I have walked in. And I can tell you about stories of people who've overcome some of the similar situations that you're in. And they will tell you the same thing, that it's temporary. When they thought there was no sunlight, it definitely, sun rose again. So again, thank you, gentlemen, for sharing that.
Mark, can I add one other thing?
Go right ahead. Go right ahead. Go right ahead. That's why we do this.
Because you made me think of some other things as well. The storm is temporary. It will pass. So, it's not the end of the world when, there's a storm brewing and a storm's coming, that it will pass. But also something else you said resonated about talking to people as opposed to talking at people. And, when I talk to young folks, what they seem to have the biggest issue with is older people telling them what to do. You should go to school. You should learn a trade. You should, instead of kind of asking them, hey, what is it that you really are interested or passionate about? So I think that that kind of communication, it needs to happen with a lot of folks, not just young folks, anybody that might be at a crossroads right now. So those two things you mentioned, the storm will pass. It's not going to be here forever. And also really listening, having, and see, now I'm thinking about 18 other words that I could say to get you through the storm. Empathy, is another one that comes to mind. So, okay, I'll stop for now.
Gary, you make a great point. Gary, you make a great point about that, because what I had said earlier too about your storm, like you have this thing we all have, that mouth, opening up your mouth. You have power over your own storm,
Mm-hmm.
You can silence the storm, believe it or not. You can tell the storm to shut up. You know what I mean? So you don't have to always take the storm. You can tell the storm how to behave. You can change the weather pattern of the storm if you say, not today, we coming back on down, or we going up high. The storm don't have to be always a bad thing, and you don't have to get beaten up by that storm. Right. You can tell that storm how to behave by opening up your mouth and say, meditate, right? Because we get situations all around us, and we're just like, we feel almost scattered and don't know what to do. But sometimes we just need to breathe.
Yeah, exactly. And mindfulness, things like mindfulness, self-compassion, that a lot of people don't take time. Like, it's 5 minutes a day. There's so many apps that you can put on your phone now that would just like sort of de-stress you in a situation that's a little crazy. So I think if people understood that a little bit more, how can I sort of give back to myself? Self-care, you hear that all the time. We need self-care to get through this. So the storm is temporary. Yep. Agree with you, Drew. And it could be a good storm. It could be something that you really learn from. So, yeah.
You're absolutely correct. It is about us really understanding why not me? Why not me? In all aspects of what we do inside life. I'm going to ask you gentlemen one last question before we get ready to get out of here. And the question just came to me, so sorry that you're unprepared, but I know you're prepared. We all say that we're works in progress, right? We all say that every day that we're striving to get better, and we're on a path. We're on a path of trajectory to get better every single day. What is it that you need to eliminate in your life today to take to take another step forward? Either one can go first.
Okay. For me, it's been a crazy year. 2020. If it hasn't affected you, something's wrong. But with the racial injustice, with the pandemic, I've had to learn to sort of push out the outer noise that sometimes comes into my world. And I think we all get it. You can't turn on any kind of media without hearing about it, on social media, on video, wherever you happen to hear it. So I have to learn about tuning things out like that to make me go forward. I mean, I'm aware of things and situations, but I was so deep into some of this stuff that I would come home and say, let me switch the channel because I got to hear what he said yesterday in front of that audience. And, this kind of stuff was driving me crazy. And I said, no. You got to step back and really breathe, exhale, meditate, calm, regroup, all of that stuff. So that's kind of what, for me, I have it.
Okay, good stuff. What about you, Drew?
Yeah. For me, I think as I started to grow, I know you talk about the process and growth a lot. I had to be comfortable with limiting my access to myself, to people, and to other things, and to situations. There's a number of issues that I'm passionate about, and there's a number of people that I love to pieces, and I found myself giving myself beyond what I can, and so I would feel depleted at the end, in a sense. So I ended up having to put up parameters around myself to kind of okay, I'm not gonna just be giving my phone number out to everybody. This is not to say you're somebody, you arrived to be something, but I had to control that access to myself. There's people I love that have access to me, and I want to make sure that I'm doing that intact as a brother, as an uncle, as a son. I want to make sure I'm fulfilling those roles. So if I'm giving myself to everything and anyone, what's at the core of myself? If I'm saying I love such and such, I'm passionate about this issue, but I'm just out here just giving myself to everything. That's what you call chaotic. That's crazy. So I just started putting parameters around the access that I give myself to kind of help eliminate some of the noise that Gary had mentioned, so that I can be fully devoted into the person or the people or the situations that I say that I'm passionate about.
Mm-hmm. Very good. For me, I'm going to say it's slowing down. Slowing down. Although the pandemic slowed us down, and trust me, I am truly heartfelt for all those who lost family members, lost friends, lost loved ones. It's unspeakable. So again, my heart goes out to everybody who's done that. And that slowed me down, but I still need to slow down a little bit more. Trying to push the envelope to another level is not healthy, and it's mentally taxing. So that is something that I truly know within myself that is an area, not a problem. Gary mentioned perpetual weakness earlier. I wrote that down. It's an area of opportunity for me to take the next step to move to where I need to go. So thank you, gentlemen, again for joining me tonight. Real quickly, would you guys, start with you first, Drew. Thank you again so much for coming on tonight. I really appreciate it. Do you have any parting wisdom or words of information or knowledge you'd like to share with everybody before I wrap it up?
So, Mark, look, this is always, I love your platform. I love the messages that you share week after week. You pour a lot into a lot of us, because I'm included, because I do get a lot of impartation and wisdom from even from you and the audiences that you even bring onto this platform. So I'm grateful to you, Mark. So thank you. And I just want to encourage you to continue to do what you do, and don't shut your mouth, because there's so many people that you are feeding and you don't even see through this medium here. So continue to do what you do. I'm Andrew Simpson out of Hyattsville, Maryland, by the way, New York City. You follow me on Instagram, Captain Drewski. And thank you again for having me on.
Thank you. Gary.
Yeah, I have to echo what Drew is saying about you, Mark, and your positivity and the things you exude when you speak to people and you discuss issues. So I think it's critical. We don't have enough of you out there doing this kind of thing. You mentioned Les Brown earlier and a few other folks that, have positive messages like that for the world. But I think we need to hear, a lot more of it. And I would like to help and promote you as much as I can through my platforms and my audiences, that kind of thing. But it just needs to be heard. It needs to be done. It needs to be heard on a regular basis. We're talking about things happening in the school and education systems around the country. What's going to be taught about X, Y, and Z, and what's not going to be taught. But one of the main key things of life is some of the stuff that you're talking about and have been talking about on your platform. So I would say I just keep on pushing. Thank you again for inviting me. It was a lot of fun the first time, and it's even more fun this time. And I'm at Gary Hines, Gary at GaryHinesConsulting.com, and I do career coaching, project management, program development, all kind of business administrative type things. So certainly look forward to meeting people and talking to folks.
Thank you, Gary. Thank you so much. You know, once upon a time, two brothers lived on an adjoining farm. They fell into conflict. It was the first serious rift in 40 years of farming side by side, sharing machinery and trading labor and goods as needed without a hitch. Then the long collaboration fell apart. It began with a small misunderstanding and grew into a major difference. And finally, it exploded into an exchange of bitter words, followed by weeks of silence. One morning, there was a knock on John's door. He opened it to find a man with a carpenter's box. "I'm looking for a few days' work," he said. "Perhaps you would have a small jobs here and there. Could I help you?" "Yes," said the older brother. "I do have a job for you. Look across the creek at that farm. That's my neighbor. In fact, it's my younger brother. See, last week there was a meadow between us, and he took his bulldozer to the river levee, and now there's a creek in between us. Well, he may have done this to spite me, but I'll go to him one even better. See that pile of lumber curing by the barn? I want you to build me a fence, an 8-foot fence, so I won't need to see his place anymore. Cool him down anyhow." The carpenter said, "I think I understand your situation. Show me the nails and the post hole digger, and I'll be able to do a job that pleases you." The older brother had to go into town for supplies, so he helped the carpenter get the materials ready, and then he was off and running for the day. The carpenter worked very hard all day, measuring, sawing, nailing. About sunset, the farmer returned. The carpenter had just finished the job. The farmer's eyes opened wide and his jaws dropped. There was no fence at all. It was a bridge stretching from one side of the creek to the other. A fine piece of work, handrails and all. And the neighbor, his younger brother, was coming across, his hands outstretched. "You're quite a fellow to build this bridge after all I've said and done." The two brothers stood at the end of the bridge, and then they met in the middle, taking each other's hand. They turned to see the carpenter hoist his toolbox on his shoulder. "No, wait, stay a few days. I've got a lot of other projects for you," said the older brother. The carpenter said, "I'd love to stay on, but I have many more bridges to build." Every day, we have a choice of building fences in our lives or bridges. One leads to isolation, the other leads to openness. I encourage you, no matter what you do in your life, share what we do. Drew said it most eloquently. Use your voice. Use your voice. Exercise what you have to pour positivity into this world that is truly, truly starting to hear it. Again, I want you to think about something. You are the most powerful gift that anybody else can have and receive. Your messages, your attitude, your demeanor is what is going to build and heal our nation for so many things that is a plague right now. I want you to also take a moment, visit my podcast on Anchor, Spotify, TuneIn, iHeartRadio under Mark Smith, The Process. Go back. I just released something called Wisdom. I definitely think that you truly need to listen to that and the acronym for that as well. If you have any questions, please don't hesitate. Reach back out to me. You heard from these gentlemen. They gave you their contact information. Reach out to them. Make sure that you are able to connect. Again, that is what we want to do. Pour a message of positivity that permeates throughout this world. Again, I want you to do me a favor. Understand two things. I want you to understand your why is greater than your situation, which is part of your process. But most importantly, change begins and ends within. What are you going to do about it? Have a blessed week. I will see everyone later. Have a great, great week and go change the world. God bless you.